This is the YouTube channel for Open Doors Metropolitan Community Church in Seoul, Korea. Welcome. We're a community seeking to live out the radically inclusive love of Jesus Christ. We're affiliated with the Progressive Christian Alliance and Metropolitan Community Churches. Please join us now for excerpts from the service held on Sunday, November 29, 2015. The first Sunday of Advent. This service was offered as a memorial for Yoon-taek, also known as Rainbow Chris. She was a transgender woman and friend of our faith community who, unfortunately, took her own life earlier in November 2015. As you will see and hear, this was a very intense emotional experience for us, but one which we very much needed to go through. The Reverend Daniel Payne delivered the meditation for this service, and he used the writings of the African-American essayist and activist, James Baldwin, as his inspiration. He spoke a very frank message to the queer community in Korea, but it's a message we'll all benefit from. You'll also hear from attendees who give their own remembrances of their times with Rainbow Chris. We hope you'll find something worthwhile in listening to these service excerpts.
He writes, "Perhaps the whole root of our trouble, the human trouble, is that we will sacrifice all the beauty of our lives, will imprison ourselves in totems, taboos, crosses, blood sacrifices, steeples, mosques, races, armies, flags, and nations, in order to deny the fact of death, the only fact we have." Since I first read these words a few years ago, they have both haunted and inspired me. It is the first of those imprisonments Baldwin mentions, the totems, that I would like to speak about briefly this morning. The morning after Yoon-taek passed away, I posted an open letter to the queer community on my Facebook page. In this letter, I criticized our unbelievably masochistic acceptance of certain cultural totems, especially those surrounding the ideas of identity and worth. While I stated that these totems are widely accepted in the general culture, I also pointed out that they are magnified in the queer culture. The totem of ideals of beauty, body type, worth based on others' views of us, facile ideas about love and commitment, and the loss of meaningful sexual expression. Baldwin asks an important question, a relevant question, a question that I would like to apply to the expectations of culture in general and of queer culture in particular. Do I really want to be integrated into a burning house? Make no mistake, and do not be fooled by the empty promises of barren culture. This house is burning down to the ground. This house of perfect bodies. This house of beautiful skin hiding empty minds and darkened hearts. This house of expectations always just out of reach. This house of fleeting love based on juvenile feelings. This house of fucking around because we fear any kind of real connection or commitment. This house devoid of any depth, only surface deep. It's burning, and you can feel it, and you know you're burning with it, and you know there's an escape, but everyone else is burning with it, and to escape just seems too lonely an endeavor. Nobody seems to be outside. Some of us are outside, though. And yes, sometimes it's hard to be outside. Sometimes it seems easier to just go with the flow. Sometimes it feels like those of us standing outside are living in a different universe. And in a sense, we are. We're living by different rules, different standards. The standard that beauty is fleeting, that concepts of beauty change, and that beauty truly does come from the inside out, as cheesy as it might sound. The standard that variations in body types keeps things interesting, and that we prefer not being robots, thank you very much. The standard that people who judge us based on external qualities can just fuck off. The standard that love is a choice, not primarily a feeling, and that any love that lasts will not be able to live inside that burning house. The standard that sex is good, and fun is good, and people can choose to have the kind of sex lives they want without judgment, but that ultimately sex is more meaningful and fulfilling when it is shared with a person you truly love. A standard that we are fucking perfect. Now, I don't know why exactly Yoon-taek took her own life. According to most of her close friends, she seemed fairly happy, everything considered up to the last. But I can only imagine it had to have something to do with expectations and judgment. From within the queer community, and no doubt from the general culture and society. Especially the sacred totem within our culture of proper bodies, right bodies, expected bodies. I can't help but think the cross, steeple, and nation affected her imprisonment and final decision as well. Really, while recognizing the good work that people like Craig and Bora and Father Zacchaeus do for the queer community, I cannot help but think queer Koreans would simply be better off without Christianity. There's really no way to avoid the indictment that the Korean church on the whole is complicit in the murder of far too many of our queer youth. And the nation, well, the nation is changing, slowly but surely, but not quickly enough. There are still far too many elements telling our queer brothers and sisters that they are not worthy of dignity in life. These are the things Yoon-taek had to deal with on a daily basis. And I guess it just all became too much. We have a choice to make. A choice for ourselves and for our queer siblings. That choice is to remain in the burning house or to step outside. Many of us here have already chosen to step outside. But we're surrounded by people who haven't, and who are constantly trying to get us to go back in or deriding us for being outside. But the only way to save ourselves and those we love is to remain outside, calling those inside to come join us, hoping we may even be able to put out the fire eventually. It's hard. W.H. Auden once wrote, "We would rather be ruined than changed. We would rather die in our dread than climb the cross of the moment and let our illusions die." It's hard, but it's not impossible. And the more of us who choose to exit that burning house, the easier it becomes for others and for ourselves. It has to come with a certain fuck you attitude, a certain toughness. Rebellion against the powers is never an easy thing to do. But I get the feeling most of us are sick and tired of playing the hamster in the rotating wheel. We're ready for something different, something real, something meaningful. It's your choice. Nobody can make it for you. But I'm here. We're here. This community is here.
Very shy, very timid. Had some questions, but I think just wasn't wanting to ask. Very quiet, but I could see the smile every single time when she was around people, with friends, with those that she were comfortable about. And I think she was astonished and impressed by the fact that there is a church community like this, that you could just be yourself. And back then, we did it all the way. We did it really all the way. We had drag shows on. We had preachers in drag preaching in service. We had a 5 p.m. We had a 5 p.m. service at midnight in 2013. It was a great time, I think. It was a great time. We had basically the bar, the club, up to ourselves. And for some reason, Rainbow Chris reminds me of Bumjun a lot because they were best buddies. They would be in Homo Hill until like 5 a.m. until Bumjun passed out. And I think Chris would take either Bumjun to a Jimjilbang, or either Chris would take Pyeongjun under her wing and let him know that Pyeongjun's like sleeping properly and being at another place like that. I personally know Chris because Chris was the person who guided me to start doing volunteer work at a cerebral palsy center. There was a moment where I had a time that I was looking for a volunteer job, and he had just finished a certain period of volunteer work there, and he wanted me to continue. He wanted to continue, and that's how she. Sorry of my pronouns, gender pronouns. Back then I knew her as him, and I thanked him. I thanked her, and just sweet lad. And then I'm jumping back to the time where Pyeongjun left us, and it was Pyeongjun's funeral. And I remember David, I remember Chris just crying at the funeral, just uncontrollably, because it was just, well, it was sad for all of us to begin with, because I think facing someone leaving the community is just not an easy thing to begin with. And then there were like so many questions because of Chris putting on Facebook in Korean saying that what have I done wrong? What have I done that you just left us like that abruptly? And she was the only person who went to Incheon because Pyeongjun's last words was that he wanted to be like the dolphins, and he wanted his ashes to be thrown, to be scattered in the West Sea. And so, I believe Chris was the only one, and the family members, and that's the reason why Pyeongjun's sister was very sad. Because she got to know Chris through a very unfortunate event, and she posted on Facebook that I wish I'd known you better, and that was so heartbreaking for that moment. And I remember Chris saying that Chris mentioned at one point that he envied Pyeongjun, that she envied Pyeongjun, that Pyeongjun was so free now that he could be what he wanted to be. And all I can really think of is Chris being free now, to be honest. And that I know that she was dealing with depression because she went to the same psychiatrist that Pyeongjun was seeing to, and I don't know if that really helped her soul or helped her mind, but that's really all I can share because, to be honest, I really don't know much about her, which is very unfortunate for me. And she was having, I remember this seeing on her Facebook wall, she was having appearance complexes. She was saying that, why do I look so ugly? And that's not a very easy thing to hear, not even from celebrities, as what Sam Smith had mentioned as well about body image and about appearances, and I think everyone deals with it. Every single human being deals with it, but just like we've seen in the video right before this, I think it just reminds us of how vulnerable people can be when they are uncomfortable with their own skin, and then they have to deal with another hoop, another obstacle in their lives. And so, but I believe that she's in a much better place right now, in a much safer place, in a much freer place, that she can just be herself. And the only thing that I can really think of is that I just wish that we could be more of a warm, cozy place that at least one wouldn't have to think about escaping from it or running away from it or just giving it away from it. I don't technically think that Chris had escaped from it all. I think she's free now. That's what I want to think about.
So, the last memory I have of Chris was at the Queer Culture Festival. I remember I had the little heart stickers on my fingernails. I don't know if any of you remember that, but Chris had seen them and asked me if I could put them on her face. Turns out it was very hot and she was sweating a lot and it didn't work so well. But I just remember I was kind of, that's funny, it doesn't work so well. So I remember the thing that comes to my mind is the atmosphere of that time was obviously very excited and very happy because the U.S. had just legalized gay marriage cross country. Of course, everyone was happy at that time. And a couple weeks ago, we had the Transgender Day of Remembrance. And I remember thinking at that time, you know, kind of the honeymoon phase is over. We still have a lot of work to do. And then Wednesday, we got this news. And it's just, it's always hard to think of how many people have left us already. And for me, the fear that it will happen again is just, I don't know when and I don't know who. But for me right now, the important thing is we're still hanging around. We're still hanging around. And just try to make it easier for other people to stay with us. I think that's the important thing.
I don't really want to say much because I didn't really know her that well. I just saw her as she was at different events. For me, it's just the question comes to mind: how long? Like you said, Rose, when will it happen again? It's not for me a question if; it's a question when. She's now the fifth person in my life that I know that took their own life. 4 of them I know for sure is because of sexual identity issues. The fifth one is 60% chance that happened. And I just want to plead with our community and with anyone that's listening on the channel and everywhere, is just open your life a little bit more. I know we fear people and we fear what they might know and all those kinds of things, but if people contact you for whatever reason, our lives are full, but just open a little bit more. Don't reject advances, making advances that for someone that wants to be part of your life in whatever way. I think that's all we can do. Just be a little bit more open to whoever is around us. People are struggling with different things, and it's now the second person of our small community, and yeah, we must do something. Keep supporting people like Ding Dong, who's working for helping people in that situation. Maybe we must do something in remembrance of those two lives and supporting them. Whatever, it's just for me how long I want to get it out of my mind, how long I don't want to be negative myself and get into the depression in my life. But yeah, my fear is too low. How long? When is the next one coming? And I want us never to forget Baldwin and Rainbow Press and use their life, not their memories, but use their life to change life, even if it's 0.1% for somebody else struggling with whatever issue they may face.
I'll just say before I begin how glad I am to see those who have come out in love and remembrance for Chris, to remember who she was and what she meant to all of you. And those memories will not be forgotten. I had to address some of the feelings that I sensed in the community in my last blog entry, which was just a kind of prayer which went how fucking long. But in the end, I thought that it was our ability to come together as a community and to reach out to each other which will persevere throughout this. So this Sunday marks the first Sunday of the church season of Advent. It's a time when Christians prepare for the coming of the Messiah, and then at Christmas we celebrate the coming of the Messiah into our world and into our lives. And the traditional theme for the first Sunday of Advent is hope. And I realize that some people might think that's not the most appropriate thing to talk about at a time like this. We've needed to voice our grief, our sadness, and our despair, and yes, our anger. But we choose not to stay there. We choose to hope. We choose to hope that it will get better. We choose to hope that out of our pain, strength will be gained, bonds will become closer, and that we will become more determined to work and fight, if need be, for the day that no trans person or no other sexual minority, for that matter, feels the need to take his or her life. Please stand with me as you're able. We dare to hope
that the day is coming when promises will be fulfilled.
We dare to hope
that the branch of righteousness and justice will spring up.
We dare to hope
that righteousness and justice will be the rule for all.
We dare to hope
that all will live in safety.
And with the lighting of this light, we say that darkness and death have lost,
For we dare to hope.
Thank you for sharing in these remembrances. Through all the changing scenes of life, in celebration and in sorrow, we seek to be a supportive, healing presence for all who have been part of our fellowship. We'd like you to be part of this fellowship too. All are welcome to join us in our worship and our ministry. And all means all, without exception. We worship at 11 a.m. on Sunday mornings in the Hebangchon district in Seoul. For more information about us, our location, and our ministry activities, please check our website at www.opendoorskorea.org. We hope to see you soon.